Okay, everybody, I am going to go through some of the basic tools we're going to be going over in Illustrator. We're using Illustrator now, and it is a fantastic um, tool. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through the first tool right here, which is the actual black arrow, or we call the selection tool. When you hover over it, it's the selection tool. It is your number one tool you're going to use because you're going to be able to select things, move things, everything like that. I really can't show you because there's nothing here. So we're going to go to our next tool to show you, and that's going to be the shape tool. Now, it usually shows up as a rectangle. I've been using it, playing around, of course, but usually you'll see the square first. So let's go ahead and draw a square. It's literally a matter of left clicking, dragging, and whatever we want to do, it will be. Now, when you see that actual purple line, where is it? Right there. That means you have a perfectly square instead of a rectangle. Another way to do that is if you hold the shift button down. If you hold the shift button down and then left click and drag, no matter where you go, it's always going to be a perfect square. Okay? So again, we can draw long thin ones, tall thin ones, short squatty ones, whatever you'd like to do. And that's how we use that. And again, now I'll show you the selection tool. Selection tool is right here. It's a matter of clicking on each one. Now, one of the cool things about the rectangle is when I see that, and let me get rid of some of these other ones here. So we get a little closer. Let's delete that one. And we'll just put this one off down over here. And let's make this one. With the selection tool, you can see that there are 8 points. They're white little boxes on each path and then each corner. With that being said, with the selection tool, I can grab one and I can pull it any direction. Or I can grab a corner and I can move it around like that. Now, if you wanted to move this path out the same distance as this path, it can easily be done. It's holding that Alt button, the ALT button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get on this. I'm going to hold the Alt button. Then I'm going to left click and I'm going to pull. And notice you're seeing whenever I pull or I push in, it's equidistant on both sides. And that's going to help you out later on when you start designing. Now, if I hold the Shift button and I grab a corner, it's going to keep everything in ratio. Now, no, mind you, this isn't a perfect square, but say I want the same square, but larger. But I want to keep the same, the height and width ratio. So I hold that Shift button down, grab that corner, and it's going to stay in ratio. Now notice, I can move it all around. It stays in the same ratio. So say if the side was 1, and the height was 1, and the length was 1.25, that ratio is the same by holding that Shift button down while moving. Now that we got how to move things, one last thing to move is we're going to go into the corner. You're going to find out if I hover on the outside of the corner, you're going to see this little boomerang here. And that boomerang is meaning I can rotate it. So if I left click, notice I can rotate it, and it actually shows you the percentage I'm rotating. And it works out really, really nice. Once released, hey, I have to go back and I'll start again. Select it and rotate it. And it picks up from where you left off, which is really nice. But I don't want to do that. Let's go back to the original. And here's another cool tool. If you hold the Shift button down again, now remember, it kept things in ratio when I was actually making it bigger and smaller, but if the Shift button does another thing while using it in rotate. If I hold the Shift button, it'll do in increments of 30, or excuse me, 45. And notice that helps out a lot. So that Shift button does several things with the selection tool. If I want to make it larger or smaller, hold that Shift button, it keeps it in ratio. If I want to rotate it, it does it in 45 degrees, which is really nice. So that's how the selection button works. And it's going to work with all kinds of shapes that we're going to create throughout your illustration tutorials and things like that. Now, when we look at this square, you're going to see 4 circles in the middle. If you see when I hover over them, you see a little arc. Well, what that does is I have the ability to actually grab that circle, and they all work in unison. And notice they move. I can arc to a point where I could bring it and almost make a circle. Now, it wasn't a circle because, of course, we knew that the length was a little longer. I'm going to hit Control Z, and that brings us back to what we last did. That, my friends, is probably the most important thing that you're going to learn. And I'm going to stop what I'm teaching right now and just tell you, Control Z takes you steps backwards. Now, it's not just one step, you can go back many steps. So if you don't like something you've done after about 10, 15, 20 steps, you can Control Z and go back and back and back. And it takes you back one step at a time, which is really, really crucial, and it makes it so much easier. That gives you the ability to take chances. We're digital art. We have the ability of just a click of a combination of a Control Z to go back and start over from where you're happy with it and then try something different. So again, I'm going to challenge you. Push yourself. You may not like it, but Control Z goes backwards and it is fantastic. As you can see with that, going back now to the actual square, I can rotate that and it looks really nice. Now, there's other things here too. So let me go ahead and get rid of these two. Delete it. When you're looking at the square tool, which is the fifth one down, you're going to see a small little white triangle in the bottom right-hand corner. There's other tools that have the same thing. Well, that means that there's more tools underneath that tool. So if you click and hold, you're going to see I have a whole bunch of tools here. Ellipse, polygon, star tool, and line tool. So what I'm going to do is, there's at the end of each one of these is another white arrow, and you can see it highlighted. It turns a dark brown, or a dark gray, excuse me, not brown, gray. If I click on that, it's what we call a tear off. And now I can see all the tools that are underneath this tool, and I can easily manipulate through them. So let's come here and let's make an ellipse. Again, same as a square. I just click and drag. I click and drag, and I can do all kinds of things. Again, if I want a perfect circle, hold that shift button down, and boom, it's a perfect circle. That simple, that simple. Now with the polygon tool, let's go ahead and take this. And again, same thing with the selection tool. I'm able to manipulate it, and you'll see those 8 squares, that 4 on the path, 4 on the corners, and I'm able to move that. Again, the shift applies, keeps it in ratio. The alt applies too. Bring it in, bring it out. But then you're going to see one other thing. Let's go ahead and blow this one up here. Let's go delete. And let's look at this perfect circle. I'm going to make it perfect and make it larger. You're going to see this little tab, or this little thing over here that's kind of hanging out on the right-hand side. Every time I've used it, it's on the right-hand side. It works wonders, and when you hover over it, you're going to see my icon turns into like a little, underneath the little arrow, it's like a Pac-Man. And what that means is I can actually cut this circle. And what do I mean by that is I can kind of click and hold, and notice I'm able to make a pie chart. Yes, I can come up here and move this one too. And you're looking at my start angle and my end angle, and you're looking at the pie angle. It gives you 3 different things. It's pretty cool. Let's go Control Z, Control Z. Now, I can go straight across. Look at my start angle is at 0, and it's going to give me almost 180 up. There it is. There's my 180. So I can do all kinds of cool things. Yes, I can bring this around again too. It literally goes 360 degrees, but it's really kind of neat. Back in the day, we used to have to do something else to get this triangle, and of course, Adobe is listening to the designers and giving new and understanding what we need, and are making those developments. Let's go ahead and get rid of this one. Let's go to our polygon. Our polygon is clicking and dragging, and notice it turns out as a hexagon. Yes, same thing with the selection tool. Pull it out, stretch it out, do all kinds of crazy things like we do before. I can still rotate it. Let's rotate it. There's 45. And again, I can even move it too. I didn't even talk about that. I can move it real simple. It's just a matter of when you see it, when you get the squares underneath the selection tool, you see that little box, that means I'm able to move it. So I apologize I didn't do that right away, but I'm covering it, so that's a good thing. Let's do 180. Now, you're going to notice there's only one circle here with all these shapes. What happens is, let's do it like we had with the square, and click it, and notice I can round out all of those straight edges, which is really kind of neat. Now, say that I don't want a hexagon. I don't want, 1, 2, 3, 4 hexagon. Excuse me, I had to count. Bear with me. don't want the hexagon, so let's go ahead and delete this, and let's show you how to make a different one. Say I want maybe 8 sides. Well, here instead of clicking and dragging, I just click once, and notice it's going to ask me, how many sides do I want? I want 8 sides. Now I can mess with my radius to make it whatever size I want. I just go with whatever I did, it's in there, because I'll manipulate it with the selection tool, and I'll make it the size I want it. But this tells me how many sides I want. And once I hit OK, notice I've got my octagon. And again, like I say, I'll come here and I'll go ahead and hold it, shift it, and I will definitely be able to make it whatever size I want. If you really want to, they talk about the radius. The radius is from here to here, and that's what they're looking for, okay? So you could type in whatever radius. Of course, the smaller the number, the smaller it's going to be. The bigger the number, the bigger it's going to be. Let's go to our star tool. Now, mind you, with this polygon tool, I'm going to go back. I can make it how many sides as I want it. I can even go down to 3, and that's how you make a triangle, okay? Little known fact. If you're looking for make a triangle, there's your triangle, okay? Again, there's that little rounded. I can round it out real easy. Make anything from a yield sign to whatever you want. It's up to you. And see that the Control Z. Now the star is the next one. Star tool, usually when you click and you drag, there's your star. Very traditional, typical star. I can do the same thing as polygon. I don't have to just do 5 stars. Now let's go over here and try the move tool. As you can see, everything's the same. Hold that Alt button, boop, 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 make it short squatty, whatever you'd like to do. It rotates, it does everything else. You should get that, you should just assume that from now on, whenever I do something like this, that you should understand these things. Once I cover it, if it's something new, I'll tell you, but if it's not, know that you can do the things before. I like to, when I teach, scaffold things. So once you learn it, it's always going to be applicable to whatever we need to do. But now here's another thing. This is a star that has kind of, it's not a straight right, like this is not horizontal. So you can make a different star, and it's really simple. It'll be 5 points like this one is. But what you do is you hold the Alt button down. So if you click the star button here and hold that Alt button down, notice the stars are different, more traditional, like you'd see on the American flag. Notice if I do it one more time, and I'm not holding the Alt button down, that's what it looks like. And there's a difference between your 2 stars. I prefer holding the Alt button down, but that's up to you. But let's go and say we don't want a star. We've done a 6-point star. We've done an 8-point star. Whatever star points you want, yes, we can do that too. Just like the octagon, you click the star, and instead of clicking and dragging, I click one more time, and notice it's going to ask for my points. Now, mind you, it's asking you for a radius 1 and radius 2. I'll go over that in a minute. But let's go ahead and make this a 10-point star. I click OK. Boom. Here's where the radius comes in. And let's make this a little larger so you can see this. You can hold that Shift button down, and there you go. Now in the middle here, you're going to see a point from here to the middle and a point from here to the middle. There's radius 1, which is the larger number. There's radius 2, the smaller number. You can manipulate those numbers. So let's go ahead and do something like that. Let's go delete. Let's try this one more time. Boom. Notice there's a larger number. Let's make this 120. We're going to keep this one at 45, so it's going to be really, really strange. It's going to be long, thin lines. And let's say OK. Boom. Notice how they're much longer. I pushed these lines out, but I kept these consistent. So that's how that works. Okay. And again, yes, same thing. Squash it down. Say you're making a poster that says, hey, 50% off, and you're looking for a kind of a starburst. Here's your starburst. Put it over here. Put it in the corner over here, and we could drop in a 50% off or whatever you want. But these are some of the ways that we just kind of think about when we're designing work. So I've basically gone over all the tools. Yes, there's a line segment tool. It's very simple. Click one, up, cancel, click drag, and there you have it. Okay, it's that simple. I clicked once, as you see. I can change my angle. I can tell you the length of it, and then I can do whatever you need to do. So let's say we're going to make this one go the opposite direction. We'll go like this, same size, say okay. Boom, there's my line. Again, yes, I can move it. Now this only has, as you can see, 2 of them. So when I want to move it, make it smaller, there you go. And of course I can move it around. It works off this point here. I don't use the line tool too much. I like to use shapes rather than just lines, but it is something that's effective when you need it, okay? So I've just gone over those tools. I'm going to stop that for right now, and now you see how these work, and I will get back to our second part.